After the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor, there is some fear that the West Coast may fall victim to bombing raids. The West Coast was far more exposed than the rest of the country. They also produced much of the country's war material. This included oil, ships, and aircraft. Japan, however, struggled to find the means to launch an attack. Over time, the Japanese came up with a plan to attack the West Coast. Since much of the Pacific Northwest is covered with trees, they would use incendiary bombs to set the forests on fire, hoping to burn down much of the Pacific Northwest. In September of 1942, a Japanese submarine was secretly sent to the Oregon coast. The submarine carried a Japanese pilot named Nobuo Fujita. When the submarine surfaced, 50 miles off the coastline, Fujita was catapulted in his small plane from the deck of the submarine. His plane was loaded with two bombs that would be dropped over the forest near Brookings, close to the redwood forest. The Japanese hoped that the fires would divert the country's resources away from major cities and other parts of the warfare. This would make the United States more vulnerable. Fujita used two bombs near Brookings and two other bombs over the next several days. Fortunately for citizens of Brookings, the bombs proved to be unsuccessful. The forest proved too wet for the fires to spread quickly. One fire was put out quickly by a local forest ranger and local firefighters. Evidence of Fujita's second bomb near Brookings was never found. Although the bombs did not work as the Japanese had hoped, Fujita still stands as the only person to conduct an aerial bombing of the continental United States during World War II. Since the bombing, Fujita had returned to Japan, opened a hardware store, returning to civilian life. However, he was haunted by guilt over his actions during the war. 20 years later, the town of Brookings was preparing for their annual Azalea Festival, celebrated during Memorial Day weekend. Organizers of the event proposed inviting Fujita back to Brookings as a gesture of goodwill and forgiveness. When he received the invite, Fujita was nervous. He said that he was worried the Americans might egg him or harass him. He even thought he might be put on trial for war crimes. The Japanese and US governments assured him that he would be safe and would not be arrested or tried as a war criminal. Fujita agreed to attend, but was still nervous. He decided that if he was not forgiven or accepted by the people of Brookings, then he would conduct a ritual suicide using his family's ancient samurai sword. The decision to welcome Fujita back to Brookings was not agreed upon by all Brookings citizens. While many people supported his arrival, others were outraged by his invitation. One newspaper even published a full-page letter criticizing the invitation. In preparation for his visit, the citizens of Brookings took down all the negative newspapers. A few vocal opponents were even temporarily held in the county jail for the week of Fujita's visit, to keep them from harassing him. Fujita offered a sincere apology for his actions during the war. He funded a scholarship program to pay for Brookings students to study in Japan as foreign exchange students. Fujita and his company donated several $1,000s to the Checo Library in Brookings to pay for books. He even donated his family's 400-year-old samurai sword to the local library. Fujita returned several times over the following decades, considering it his second home. When he returned to Brookings in 1985, Fujita was given a U.S. flag that had flown over the U.S. Capitol building. A dedicatory letter from the aide to President Reagan accompanied the flag, recognizing Fujita for his kind and heartfelt gesture in financing a trip to Japan for 3 Brookings students. In 1992, Brookings named him an honorary citizen. He planted trees at the bombing site over the years. Fujita died in 1997, and some of his ashes were spread at the bombing site by his daughter. His sword remains at the Checo Library to this day, proudly on display for all to see.